Welcome into the show. This is Philadelphia 76ers Now by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr. As always, no matter where you are, how you're tuned in, we appreciate you for making today's show a part of your day. What we're going to do, once again, open up the floor for a mailbag segment. We did this the other day. It was highly successful. A lot of people enjoyed it. It's part of our live show, so we're going to run it back. First, if you like the Sixers offseason moves, what they've done so far up to this point, then I want you to hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. If you're not a fan of what Philadelphia has done, I want you to comment why. Let's see what you come up with. Let's get it started with this $2 super chat from Jeff Phillips. How can the 76ers afford Dorian Finney-Smith? Well, he's a pretty affordable player. We do have his contract available that we can show you, and there's a couple of ways that Philadelphia can approach this, right? You trade for Dorian Finney-Smith, you clear up some money by trading away Paul Reed or releasing him, you give up a first-round pick. I think that deal gets it done for the Brooklyn Nets, and then these contractual figures are pretty affordable here. I think that he'd be a really good four alongside Joel Embiid in the front court. He can knock down the three, love his defensive intensity and his defensive versatility. I also like how he's under team control for the next 2 years. His numbers have suffered a little bit the last 2 years with Brooklyn, but I think that's because he's been on a bad team. I think on a good team, the numbers increase to the levels of what they were like when he was with the Dallas Mavericks, playing with Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. But right in the neighborhood of $15 million, that's pretty solid. And Philadelphia, I think they should make this move because Lauri Markkanen is not realistic. The Jazz want players. Sixers don't have that. They only have picks. That next tier, Dorian Finney-Smith. Nice with it. Bobby Portis is the missing link to get to the championship. I like Bobby Portis as a player. I think that Bobby Portis is mentally and physically tough. I like his ability, too, to shoot the three. He has shown that he can be a piece on a championship team because he won that title with the Milwaukee Bucks. But for him, you would have to trade for him. He is not an unrestricted free agent. He will be an unrestricted free agent during the 2026-2027 offseason, has a player option for next year. This year, $12.5 million. But if you think he's the missing link to winning a championship, I think the Bucks look at him in the same way, and why would they do business with Philadelphia and trade him to a team that they're going to be competing with and against in the Eastern Conference? Corey Childs, can the Sixers bring back Buddy Hield? Let's bring on producer Chip. What do you think about this potential move here?
Yeah, look, so the Sixers have his bird rights, so they can go over the cap to sign him. They have about $9 million left in cap, but they'll be able to re-sign him if they want. You know, with the signings they made, I'm not sure they're really going to be too interested in bringing Buddy Hield back. Like, they signed an Eric Gordon who can be your three-point shooter off the bench. They have Jared McCain, so I'm not really sure where Buddy Hield fits. I don't think you want to start him. You know, they're going to be starting Oubre at the 2, and then you have Eric Gordon as your backup 2. I don't think you want to play Buddy Hield at the 3 either. I think maybe you could go sign and trade route if you're trying to trade for a player, more of a star player with a higher salary. If somehow a Lauri Markkanen trade were to take place and were to happen, or maybe a Brandon Ingram trade can still happen, I could see a Buddy Hield sign and trade happening because, again, you can sign him to a little bit of a larger salary to help match those salaries in a potential trade. If the Sixers didn't sign Eric Gordon or Kelly Oubre, I might have been okay with them bringing back Buddy Hield. It's just tough right now. I don't really see where he fits in the rotation. He's still a free agent, still just sitting out there. No team has really offered him much of anything yet. We'll see what he gets in the market. I'm thinking maybe $10 to $12 million a year for a player that I think can still be really good. Had a tough time with the Sixers, but maybe they can work something out and they can figure out a way to get him in the rotation. But at this moment in time, while they can bring him back, I'm just not so sure that they would right now.
Yeah, I know I've said this a couple of times here on the show, but think about who's putting together this team. Daryl Murray. He puts together the roster as he sees fit. He is the one, of course, who made the trade for Buddy Hield going into the deadline. And with the way that Buddy Hield played right after that acquisition, we were saying here on the show, can't wait to see how Buddy Hield plays when Joel Embiid comes back, because you would imagine he's going to get a lot of open looks. Then Buddy Hield struggled without Joel Embiid. Embiid came back. Hield struggled to fit in. He was excellent in that Game 6 against the Knicks in that first round when he caught fire. Frankly, I thought Nick Nurse should have played him more in that second half. But when Daryl Murray says he didn't really fit in as well as we thought he was going to, I thought that signaled that Hield would not return. Realness. We continue to get questions about Miles Bridges here. And I thought some people made some okay points in the comment section. And this might be just tapping into where we are in society in 2024, but like, people are going to complain about Jared McCain painting his fingernails, yet they want to bring in Miles Bridges with some of the personal baggage that he has. Now, I understand that nothing really came out of the case that he was involved with, but it didn't look good from the jump. If you just want to talk about this from a basketball and financial standpoint, I think he's a good stats, bad team player. He's not consistent enough from three. I like his athleticism, but I don't think that he would be a good fit on this team. And also, I think he'd be a little bit too expensive for Philadelphia. Now, if they brought him in, he's, of course, a really talented player, a high flyer, but can he play that 4 spot on this lineup? I'm not sure if he could. And this is a player who has always played for a loser organization in the Charlotte Hornets. And so how would he adapt to a place that has winning expectations in a city like this that can be cutthroat? I don't know. Some thoughts there. I've never really liked his game all that much, although I will give him credit for getting in the lab and making a lot of improvements for Michigan State. Because at Michigan State, he ran the floor, excellent athlete. He kind of dominated with his physicality and his size, but at the NBA level, he has added to his bag, and I'll give him his flowers for that. Who is your ideal 76ers trade target? We've talked about a couple of trade targets so far on today's show, but you drop me a name right now. Iron Mike 462, both Dario Saric and Saddiq Bey, are they possibilities? I think both Dario Saric and Saddiq Bey are possibilities. A lot of people in Philadelphia very familiar with Saddiq Bey because he played his college ball under Jay Wright at Villanova. I think he's more of a wing as compared to being a 4. He has had stretches of very good play in which he's been a solid offensive player, a big body and a physical body who's athletic on the defensive end of the floor, has had some injury issues over the last couple of years, and right now he's coming off a torn ACL. So there's no saying as to when he might be back from that injury. I know there have been medical advancements made, but still, he tore his ACL, so he could miss a bulk of this upcoming season. Do you take a flyer and give him a vet min when you don't have a lot of money? I'm down for a vet min for Saddiq Bey, and then you hope for the rest once he does come back, whenever he returns. As for Dario Saric, I'm a big fan of Dario Saric, always have been. I thought that he played excellent for Philadelphia once this era really got off the ground with Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons. Dario Saric was kind of that third player as part of that big three, or at least Philadelphia big three. I like Saric for a couple of reasons. He could play the 4 and would be an awesome fit in this starting 5. That's number 1. Number 2, he can play small ball 5 and kind of give you those Nick Batum minutes. Number 3, he can hit the 3. I like his ability to create for others as far as DHOs, dribble handoffs, being able to find guys on the backdoor cut. He's a very smart and savvy player who also has no fear, has played in a bunch of big international games. And on Tuesday, Croatia played Slovenia, and Croatia took down Luka Doncic's Slovenian team, and Dario Saric nearly had a triple-double. People are trying to tell me that Dario Saric is cooked. He's only 30 years old. Last year for the Golden State Warriors, he played pretty well, shot just under 40% from three-point range, and I think that he would be a really good and affordable player and a great fit on the Sixers team. I think he could be the starting 4, and a reunion would be a lot of fun because he was the fan favorite. Draft and stash for Sam Hinkie way back in the day. Process. Jacob Beauchamp. Kyle Lowry coming back, do you think? Chip, we've talked about Kyle Lowry obviously a few times. I think on a vet min as a backup point guard who can play on ball, off ball. I wouldn't hate to see him come back. We'll see what happens with Cam Payne. Maybe one of those two players does return.
Yeah, we'll see. The Suns were rumored to be interested in Kyle Lowry, and they went out and signed Monte Morris. So the Clippers are still a team that was linked to him a little bit, but I like the Sixers' chances of getting Kyle Lowry back. He's just going to be a vet min guy more than likely, so they have an open roster spot. They can just go sign him. He could be a good mentor to Jared McCain. I would love to see Kyle Lowry back, and at this point, I don't really see why he'd want to leave. I mean, homecoming at Philadelphia. Doesn't really seem like he's going to the Knicks to play with those Villanova guys. So, why would he want to be anywhere else? I'd love Kyle Lowry back. He was very solid for this team last year in the playoffs. He can still hit the three, play a little bit of defense, play make a little bit.
Set a charge.
Exactly. He sets the tone, man. He sets the tone. And that's what I'd like to see. I think he can get it down.
Yeah, F. Chillaxing, too, said no one wants Saric, and also said cut the propaganda when talking about Miles Bridges. Look, I think culture matters. Philadelphia's had cultural problems, and they've been a losing organization for a really long time. I want winners. I want a sound culture. That's what the Sixers are trying to build, and I don't want to take away from that. Just where I come from. Plus, again, pure basketball talk here, I don't like the player all that much for the price tag that he might demand, and I don't like the fit on the Sixers team. That's where I'm at. 76ers Show 2.0. Where is Lauri Markkanen going? Golden State Warriors said to be very interested in him. According to Monty Poole, who works for NBC Sports Bay Area, they're going to go all in. So that would be my guess. The San Antonio Spurs, also mentioned as a team, that has interest in Lauri Markkanen. Heem the dream, impact of Paul George. With Paul George signed to a max contract, how will the Sixers adjust their offensive and defensive schemes to maximize his talents alongside Embiid and Maxey? That is a really good question. Look, defensively, he's obviously going to take some of the top wings night in, night out. That's partially why you bring him in, is to be a really good wing defender and guard the likes of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown against Jalen Brunson. In that playoff series this year, you had Kelly Oubre and Nick Batum guarding Jalen Brunson. Now Paul George would make his job a little bit more difficult, so it helps you out there as far as your defensive thinking. Offensively, I don't really think you switch up much of what you do. Tyrese Maxey is still going to be the primary ball handler and creator for himself and others. You're still going to run a lot of two-man game with Joel Embiid and Maxey, and that can lead to a pick and pop, a pick and roll, that can lead to Maxey hitting a three, that can lead to Maxey throwing it behind the back to Embiid to pop the three, that can lead to a little lob, Maxey floater game, Maxey drive. I think that Paul George can run a little two-man game with Joel Embiid, kind of like what Jimmy Butler did back in the day with Embiid. But look at Jimmy Butler's fit with the Sixers, and I think that Paul George nowadays and in the future is going to have that type of fit too. He could bring the ball up. He can create for himself. He can play off ball. I just think he is such a huge upgrade from what the Sixers had in Tobias Harris. So those are some things to expect. That's some thinking on what the Sixers might do on both ends. It just makes you a better ball club on both ends of the floor, and that's why I was a fan of that move. And I haven't really seen the signs of decline for Paul George either. He's put up really good numbers and almost identical numbers the last couple of years. Marcus Cross, last question in this mailbag. Ben Simmons got to do something about his shooting, but if the Nets buy him out, I think he fits. What's your thoughts? So it's so funny that you say that. We're live right now on Tuesday, July 2nd, and earlier today, we did a video on Ben Simmons talking about the social media traction or the social media chatter about Sixers fans wanting to bring Ben Simmons back. If he gets bought out by the Nets and you can get him on a vet min, I still probably wouldn't do it, but I am intrigued at the idea for this reason. If Ben Simmons is your backup secondary floor runner and ball handler, and he can run that second unit, we've seen how special Ben Simmons can be as a point guard. He's so passive. He's always so scared to shoot, so he fills in well on that role. Defensively, though, is where I think you would reap the biggest dividends of having Ben Simmons back. Against Luka Doncic, there really hasn't been a player who's guarded Luka as well as Ben Simmons over the last couple of years. It's just a fact. He does a terrific job defensively. You don't have to worry about Ben Simmons closing games. And because he's a bad free throw shooter and can't shoot, you don't have to worry about that problem. It's not like he's your number 2 next to Joel Embiid. And then you have another wing defender in addition to Paul George who can guard Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and a Jalen Brunson. And I think the Sixers need to get a little bit better defensively in guarding wings. So, look, this is coming from somebody who thinks Ben Simmons is a stiff, who hates his lack of accountability, him always being content with being good, not great, especially when he has so much natural ability. He's never tapped into his fullest potential. Tired of seeing the jump shots in the offseason, but him never taking those jump shots in the game. But defensively, on a vet min, running your second unit, you could do worse. I also worry about how that would affect the 76ers culture. If you want to be featured on a future show, subscribe. Hit that sub button. Hit that bell icon. Turn on those notifications. Therefore, when we go live, you will be notified. This is Philadelphia 76ers Now. Myself and Chip Skull every single day provide you with content that is insightful, informative, entertaining, thought-provoking, that involves you. If that sounds good and you like the Sixers, hit that sub button.